came out to his foster parent as gay, and she wasn't sure, like, should I tell the caseworker that, like, should I protect that information or should I share it? And my guess is the reason the kid shared it with her is because he trusted her to know that. So my advice was, be careful with that information. Ask the kid what he wants, you know, but that's kind of about trust, you know, and earning that trust and maintaining that trust. And if something happens to that trust, you got to kind of backpedal and rebuild.
So Margaret?
Yes.
So if the child does come out
Yeah.
saying that, and you ask the child, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to share that? Because obviously they trust you enough to, and they might want you to help them share that information.
Yeah.
But what if they say, no, I don't want to know, but then again, it explains a lot of things that may happen, or, I mean, what do you
I would continue to talk to the child about it, and I would maybe frame it in a way like, if I do share this with certain people, like your therapist, I may be able to get you more, like, resources, like services. We can find you friends who are going through the same thing, or, I mean, but it really is like, you want to respect that confidentiality. You don't want to out somebody.
And it's okay to ask why. Like, why don't you want your case worker? Oh, because she seems mean. What about telling Chelsea? Like, why would you not want to tell her?
Because they're not in immediate danger, so something we don't have to report.
It's actually a beautiful drill down opportunity.
Yeah.
My concern is that if I don't tell people about this, I can't help you with it as much. And maybe you don't need help, but tell me more. Why, tell me more why you want me to help keep protecting this. I will, because I know that's what you want me to do. I just want to know more about how you feel about it.
And I think reassurance plays a big role in that part. Like, I'm on your side. I got your back. So when we tell other people this, like, I'm here advocating for you because, like,
and did you know there's drop-in centers and programs for kids who identify that way, and we can get you there. It's like paradise for gay kids,
Especially in Portland.
Yeah, especially in Portland. So, trust. And then also lagging skills may be making the process hard. When I was trying to drill down on Ryan, which I'm still debating in my head whether I should show you that video or not. You lived it with me, but he's so ADHD. Like, he has such a hard time with organization and paying attention. He was like all over the place. Every time I would try to bring up the subject again, he'd be like, I'm going to go get a yogurt. I'm going to go do that. I mean, really, I should show you so you can see how
That might be
crazy
a good example instead of the voice.
It's much more realistic.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I told the Thursday class this. I think it took me about 2 hours to drill down effectively with him, but it wasn't all in a row. It was like we went outside and played, and he hit the punching bag, and then we went back in his room. And I luckily had 2 hours to do this. Well, and other people might have done it in a number of days rather than in one sitting, but I felt this pressure, and you can kind of see me. I mean, I know myself, so I'm like, ooh, I'm feeling the pressure, and I'm kind of pressuring him. You need to answer my question, which isn't really how you do a plan B. You don't want to be pressuring like that.
Because we had to make these videos.
Focus, look at me, I'm right here, in
order to get trained. So I know the pressure of, like, you want it to go well, so that you can
use it.
Yeah.
Well, even if it goes, like, even let's say you don't succeed with your plan B, you can still send it in, but you want, like, at least a little bit, like, at least steps 1 and 2, you know what I mean?
And I think I even explained in my video, this was difficult because he really was reluctant to talk about it, and if you're following the model, you're going to not push, you're going to let it go. I'll show you that in a minute. The other thing is, it can be a combination of all these things, and we're going to spend the rest of today and all of next week looking at specific things that come up around all of these.
And with the fidelity issue, I mean, like, so when I first started learning about this, I would really read, I would review my material over and over again, to make sure that I had a good understanding. When I would first approach, sometimes I would, and this depends on the kids. Some kids get really triggered by, like, you having a clipboard, but sometimes I would have the paperwork there, like, so I could, like, at least reference, like, my quick tips.
Give them a clipboard too.
Yeah.
And I think we got to a point where Ryan and I are like playing with my bracelets. He has this thing where he likes to hook them in my earrings, and I was like, fine. If that's going to get you talking to me, I don't care. But what would I be concerned about that? That's fine. So it's all in the video. It's kind of embarrassing.
And it's important to know that, like, even though we're putting a lot of work into this is going to help with the problems on a long-term basis.
I'm showing it all. This is sort of embarrassing. It was hard. Stars of my video. Now, I had already worked with this kid for like 2 or 3 years, so we're pretty tight. We've been through a lot together, so we do have rapport already a little bit. But he was so closed off about any of his issues. It was hard to get him to talk about any feelings. He's got lagging skills around language.
So we're making a movie so people can see an example of the way that we work out problems together. You know how like we've talked about things like how you can't sleep at night, and we figured out that it helps you if you have stuffed animal, things like that.
Not anymore, I sleep without a stuffed animal. I sleep with
That's
a cat.
right. You sleep with a live cat, which is even better, which is what we talked about that back then. This would be the ideal thing when you didn't have a cat, right? So, I've been asking Rosalinda how
Never had a cat.
I know you didn't have a cat before, and now you live in a house where you can. Do you like cats?
And a dog.
And a dog? That's right. Glaring at over there. So, I've been asking Rosalinda how things are going around here, because I know you and Tommy sometimes have a hard time getting along, right? Is that right?
Starting to lose him. He doesn't want to talk about Tommy. Okay.
I feel like knocking out right now.
You feel like knocking out? You tired?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to talk about Tommy?
Hey, why don't we go in my room?
Why don't we go to the room? Would you? Well, because we just live together.
But listen to how I was like, nope, because we have the camera. That's so awesome.
No, we're not.
Hey, but, thing I've ever seen. Look at my face.
This is what we're not supposed to do.
Like I said, troubleshooting plans. Awesome. And it's actually hard because when you're trying to make these videos, you have to like, okay, hold on, we're gonna go. It took us like 30 minutes to set up the camera because we wanted to look at the thing. Like, and I understand how real life is gonna get in the way and make it messy, you know.
It's weird doing. It's
I was
so weird doing
exhausted
videos.
after this, and I'm like, how does she live like this 24 hours a day?
Maybe Tommy could play some cards or go do something else, and then would you feel better? Is that what it is? Me and Tommy would go to too many people watching.
Go, Tommy. Go, 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 go.
He's going. He's going. Like, Brett, do you mind if I do it?
You too, Juanito, go.
All right.
I'm gonna get a yogurt.
I think we're alone now.
He's all, I'm gonna go get a yogurt, like all over the place. So you see how this is me drilling down. This is part of the messy drill down process. I'm like, okay, we'll go over here. Then I ended up having to finish the Plan B at the Boys and Girls Club like a week later because we just couldn't. Like talking about Tommy made him upset, you know, and he thought he was in trouble because up until this point I'd been lecturing him over and over, you know, writing incident reports every single day because they were going at it in the bedroom in the morning and at night, like fighting physically. It was getting to a point where it wasn't safe to drive the car with both of them in the car. And so, you know, here I come to talk about Tommy, and he's like, great, she's gonna lecture at me, blah, blah, blah. You know, he doesn't want to talk about it. So
I do want to talk about Tommy, okay?
That's his sweet boy.
Is that your favorite?
Last one left.
That's your favorite one? I'm not taking
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah, it's like a little. It tastes like chocolate for real.
So, are you going to get a spoon?
better I just bring it up and wait for him to figure out he doesn't have one.
No,
No?
I want to talk about him when he's here.
Then we just sent him away. Come sit down so you can be in the film.
Come back, Tommy.
Well, you know what? I actually
Don't watch me.
I don't
tasting it.
That's okay. I'll just let you have it. I want to know
I only
what it
picked the
feels
hardest
like
kid.
living, in the same room with someone else.
So I
What is it like?
had suspicions. I mean, Rosalind and I on the same service team, we were doing our assessing and figuring out it's got to be something about sharing the room, obviously, because that's when they're fighting. So that's why I'm approaching it with, I'm bad at step one, but like, I've noticed there's something about the room. Like, I want you to tell me about what it's like to share a room with mom. That's my attempt at being neutral in how we talk about it.
You don't know? You like
Got
it?
to cut.
Well, I guess let's just start with this. Do you like
I'm tired.
this new house? This new family?
You can't talk while I'm eating.
Ryan. Yes, you can. It's okay.
Yes, you can. It's okay. You have to. It's okay.
Can I just make some guesses and you say yes or no? Is that okay? I'm gonna guess that you do like living here, that you like living with Rosalinda.
I do. I never got my thing back.
I know we need to get your things back. I'm sorry about that. I'm also gonna make a guess that it feels different now that you share a room with another kid.
He'd never had a roommate ever except when he lived
That's true.
in his abusive home.
Yeah.
So what feels different about that? Is it like you're used to having a room to yourself? Yeah? Is it like, there's someone else making noise and their stuff is in there too?
Just want to touch it.
Just
Stuff.
that you want to touch the stuff that's in there? You want to touch Tommy's stuff? Why do you want to do that?
That it makes me angry. And that's a punching bag.
Tell me about the punching bag.
So
Yeah.
I started getting somewhere where he's like, I'm making educated guesses because he's not volunteering a whole lot of
And he has
information.
a huge
All
language
he-
processing.
All he said was,
Deficit.
yes, I do like living there. Yes, it is different sharing a room. That's all I've got to go on. So I'm like, well, I wonder if it's this. No. And then I said, is it because someone else's stuff is in there? And then he said, when I touch it. I have no idea what that means, but that was a clue. And then he said, there's the punching bag. And later I found out the reason he pointed out the punching bag is because that's what he does when he's mad. Instead of fighting with Tommy, that's what he's supposed to do, is like go outside, take space, and take it out on the punching bag instead of taking it out on top. That's what he's telling me with all these weird clues. But I'm not getting it yet. It took me like 2 hours to get it. Because language processing, exactly. And executive functioning skills. He's all over the place. We had him assessed by a trauma guy who was actually like, he's got too many trains trying to go on the same track. He's so like traumatized that he can't, it's hard for him to focus on anything because his brain can only process one thing at a time, and he's got all these things coming at him all the time.
Only me when I get it.
So when you get angry, you punch the punching bag, you feel better?
Feels tiny.
Oh, so he uses it too. So tell me about, so you like to touch his stuff when you're angry at him,
But I don't.
but you don't touch his stuff, but you want to. So what kind of things make you angry at him? Kitty wants some of your sugar.
I'm a kitty cat.
Is that the kitty that sleeps on your bed?
Chiquito, no.
Yes, that is the kitty that sleeps on your bed. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Ryan. Does Tommy ever touch your stuff? Well, so let's talk about the room. So closet has your stuff and Tommy's stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you get the same amount of space in his closet?
No, Tommy takes up all the
He
space.
takes up all the space. Tell me about that.
He never wants me. My shoes in.
He doesn't want your shoes in there?
Yeah.
Why not?
I put them in there.
You put your shoes in there and he gets mad.
And he takes them out.
He takes them out.
That's why I want to touch his stuff. See how he feels.
That makes sense.
Empathy.
Now we've gotten somewhere, huh? And him and Tommy have like almost identical lagging skills. They're like cut from the same cloth. It's so funny. So you have these two kids that are extremely inflexible sharing a room, and they don't know how to express themselves in healthy ways, and they're both very distractible, and it's just, it was explosive, you know? It takes a
You
little
want to try
time.
on one of my bracelets?
Takes
For
a
you,
lot of
so let's do
patience.
that. You want that one?
They can't come off. Yeah, they can.
Squeeze through. So, you guys have to share a closet, and it's frustrating because Tommy
Where's
takes
the magnet bracelet you have?
I don't have that one today. It's in my room at home.
He also has a lot of cognitive issues with cognitive flexibility, so
So,
Margaret is on the same bracelet.
let's draw a little picture here. So here's the bedroom, right? Here's Tommy, no, that's your bed. There's Tommy's bed. Here's, you have like video games there, right?
No.
What's over there?
Closet.
No, the closet's over here.
How do you know?
What's inside? So I'm trying to remember what's over here.
Nothing.
Nothing. So here's you in your bed, sleeping. Here's the kitty on your bed.
That does not look like a cat.
So detailed, he's like, nope, that's not right.
And here's the closet. So it's bedtime. You're in your bed.
The closet's big. Just like
You want to draw it? Why don't you draw me some things that are in the closet? Is that a shoe? That's an awesome shoe. Has stripes? That's totally like your shoes, huh?
do you see how Margaret though, like, by having him draw and engage,
So that's
she's
your
kinda,
shoe.
she's kinda gonna probably get a little further than just like him like being willing to talk.
Well, now he's focused, but then he gets too focused on the drawing. This is how the shoe looks.
What else is in the closet? One of Tommy's shoes, one of Tommy's stuff. No, wish was in the closet.
nothing.
Nothing at all? Not even your stuff?
Video games.
Video games. Do you think the closet is big enough for all your stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. For Tommy's stuff and your stuff?
Wait, let me draw a backpack.
You put your backpack in there too? So does everything fit in there? Do you think Tommy is moving your stuff out of the closet because there isn't enough room for it?
I think he does it to be rude.
You think he does it to be rude? So what does he do that's rude? They call you names.
Yeah.
Yeah. What feels rude? Looks like a spaceship.
I don't know that he even understands really what I'm asking him. What is he feeling rude? I mean,
Here, let me draw it.
I want you to tell me more about Tommy being rude.
This is a spaceship.
so we're going to tell you about this spaceship.
So, what happens when Tommy is rude to you?
He gets in trouble.
He gets in trouble,
Yeah.
and what do you do when Tommy's rude to you?
Try to ignore.
You try to ignore. Is that hard sometimes? So what I'm hearing you say is, sounds like you guys are sharing a room, you both have to share a closet, and you try to share the closet, but Tommy's rude to you, which makes it hard, and he takes your stuff out of the closet, and then you guys start to argue about it, right?
Not argue.
Not argue. What do you do? Saying things to each other.
You know what I noticed I'm not doing? I'm not reassuring him at all. Like, I'm talking nice or whatever, but I'm not saying, hey, I'm trying to understand. I haven't done that one single time. I'm just gonna own that. It was like 2 years ago. Anyway,
What do you do? So, problem is that you have to share this room, and you have to share the closet and everything, right? And it's hard because
I can't believe we're doing this.
Tommy makes it hard for you.
And when is Tommy gonna come?
You want Tommy to be in the movie? We can talk about this with Tommy. But first I want to say, that's what I'm hearing you say, is that it's really
Well,
frustrating.
he's break.
Yes.
I'm not that strong. I'm not that strong.
So, I'm hearing you say that it is frustrating and feels bad
Well, I am saying.
when you have to try to ignore Tommy being rude to you.
he's like, you keep repeating
Sharing
it.
your
Yeah, you
closet,
got it.
right? And I'm hearing Rosalinda say that
That's
she
the other
needs the
side
two
of the
of you to
problem.
get along and learn how to like walk away and interact with each other in a nice way.
Well, I can't.
But you can't. Why do you think you can't?
Because of Tommy's here. His house.
Because Tommy lives here?
Yeah, I wish he didn't live
You
here.
wish he didn't live here?
I just pretend he doesn't exist, but
You wish you were the only boy that lived here?
yeah.
Yeah? What would that be like?
Well, Rosalinda almost gave up her 30-day notice.
For you?
Both of us.
For both of you? Why did she do that?
On Mother's Day.
She was pretty mad at her Mother's Day.
Yeah, that's why we
Why
were
did-
doing
why
this.
was-
Mother's Day was bad.
Quiet!
Why was she mad? Was Tommy fighting?
We were making
You were making noises in the morning.
I was trying to get her to go to sleep more so we could play.
So you're making noisy. And did that make you feel pretty bad that she said she might give up?
And Tommy.
And Tommy, what did you think about that? Were you worried that was gonna happen?
That Tommy.
You thought Tommy was gonna go?
Yeah. And one always says Tommy's the first one that's leaving. But I'm not leaving.
Do you wanna leave? Do you wanna stay?
I want to stay.
You wanna stay? I want you to stay
You
too.
should use these as bracelets.
So have we identified his concerns?
So let me see if I understand what you're telling me is that it's hard for both of you to live here.
It will hurt if I put it in my ears.
Yes, it will. And
Once I have my ears pierced.
that really stuck with you when Rosalinda said, can I put it back in my ear?
No.
When Rosalinda said that you guys might have to go, did that upset you? Was that smart? Did that upset you when she said that because you were worried?
Just rolling with him. You have to. She's just hooking it on right now.
This is good, you're good.
No, like your hair needs to be
Oh, thank you. Like that. Okay, let's get back to talking.
Can I put it in?
Was that feedback from Martina?
This went on for hours.
So,
How can you?
I'm just.
we were talking about you and Tommy sharing a room, and then it turned into you and Tommy living here together. It's hard. What do you think we should do about that? Because Rosalinda loves both of you, and she wants to help both of you. What do you
Look,
think?
I made a helicopter.
Ryan,
So now I'm
What do you
trying to
think
get him to
about-
brainstorm solutions. We'll see what happens.
you don't know? Have you thought about that a lot?
No.
help with that, Rosalinda supervises you guys when you're playing together?
So if I didn't have to make the video all in one day, I would have ended this conversation long ago and come back to it later. But I was trying to get I was pushing my agenda here.
Which is part of, you know, when we're troubleshooting,
Yeah.
Right.
where it could go
That's
wrong.
part of the, and that's why I keep fumbling, and then I'm getting impatient, which is maybe gonna affect things. So he's not really coming, he's nervous again. You see how he's doing that distractible thing again. I think he maybe is afraid I'm gonna tell him he has to leave the home. I don't know. But so I am trying to make some suggestions, like I just asked him, does it help when Rosalinda watches the two of you play? Because that's what it boiled down to at that point in time is you guys were supervising everything. You had to supervise every minute they were together because otherwise they'd fight. So I'm trying to see if that works for him.
This can easily go down here,
Do you think,
but I know where it
do
is.
you think the punching bag helps?
Yeah. I think I should punch it right now.
You do?
Okay.
That's awesome.
This is filled with water.
Does that feel better when you do that? What do you think about when you punch the punching bag?
Nothing.
Nothing?
I think about something.
You think about Tommy? What about Tommy do you think about?
I don't know.
You don't know? Think about how you're frustrated?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you
I
know
think about stuff.
what stuff?
I can't tell you because I don't know what stuff.
You don't know what stuff? Just different stuff every time? Okay. So the punching bag is something that makes you feel better when you're frustrated with Tommy. And Rosalinda's okay with you using the punching bag, right?
I want to.
So that's something that can maybe help, so you can both stay living here, right?
Yeah.
What else? What other things do you guys...
I wish I never kept Tommy not frustrated.
Say that again?
I wish I never kept Tommy feel never frustrated.
You wish Tommy never felt frustrated?
Never had this.
You wish you and Tommy never felt frustrated with each other?
No, I wish Tommy was frustrated when he didn't have this.
Oh,
You wish Tommy was frustrated when you didn't have the punching bag.
I finally understand.
To punch
3
him.
years later, what he's trying to say, he would want Tommy to get kicked out by not having a punching bag to use when he's frustrated. So Tommy would mess up and get kicked out, right? Is that
Yeah.
what he's saying? Okay. I did not get that at the time. 3 years, plan B can take 3 years.
Why do you wish that, honey?
Kind of
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
mean. He's mean to me.
Goes on
He's
for
mean to
a
you.
while, and then we follow up at Boys and Girls.
I'm trying
We
to
should
think
play
what
a
else
game
helps.
together.
And I know, well, we have to finish talking about this first.
I'll get the game ready.
I adore
I'll
this
get the
kid
game.
with my whole heart. I must say.
It actually sounds like things have gotten better between you and Tommy in the last couple of weeks. Is that true? Like when you guys were driving in the car with me, I noticed you weren't fighting as much. I mean, you do sometimes focus on what he's doing wrong, and he focuses on what you're doing wrong with.
Bingo.
That's for checkers or chess. But I want to know, are you feeling better? Yeah, can you tell the camera that you're feeling better? Because we can't hear you when you're facing the other way.
Yeah, I'm feeling better.
Why are you feeling better? What's going better?
Just me and Tommy along.
You and Tommy are getting along?
We got the stuff I need to do.
That looks really fun. I'm excited to play that with you. So is he still moving your shoes out of the closet? No? Are you sleeping better?
Yeah,
Is that helping, do you think?
yeah,
What else is helping? Are Rosalinda and Juan helping you?
yeah.
How do they help you? You You don't know? You don't want to say? Well, I'm certainly glad you're feeling better because how you feel is important to me. And it sounds like you found some... Is everything important? A lot of things are important, yes. But mainly, you know, you get things out of living in Juan and Rosalinda's house. And I want you to continue to get being there. And I want Tommy to get things out of being there as well. So it's important that you're both able to stay there. But that's what the adults are worried about, you know? Like we talked about last time. No, you don't want to play the game?
This game.
Can we finish talking about the problem? Or do you feel like the problem is solved? Is everything better with Tommy? Really? No fighting at all? Wow. Good job then.
But I'm fighting a little.
You're fighting a little with Tommy, but no one's punching anybody or anything like that. That's really, really good. I'm really proud of you because I know that was hard and it must have felt really hard to be living with another boy in the room, not being used to that. So good job, Ryan. I'm proud of you.
That makes me exhausted just watching that. I don't know if I deserve applause.
It was realistic though, because
It
a
was
lot of
pretty
kids
rough.
are just
I
really
mean-
sidetracked and don't want to stay on the
That was
subject.
my life.
Yeah. Hope I didn't trigger you guys. And tell me the truth. Did you see stages? Did I hit the stages? Like, do you recognize some of those phases in there? Because it was pretty messy, and I had to keep going back to step one. And
What
you
was
know.
the solution that they?
What was the solution?
Was it
Tommy
duct
left.
tape?
Tommy
At
left.
the end, no.
He actually.
But he,
We had a whole safety plan we wrote up where
Yeah.
like you guys had to, one adult had to be in the room at all
yeah, that
times.
was the main.
And he was part of
We always been.
helped create that.
I mean, we took their ideas into account as much as we could,
Yeah.
but that's as far as we could really get with it. It's almost like too big of an issue.
I thought it, I remember you telling me about it, and this, correct me if I'm wrong, but it had something to do with like the closet and like people putting their shoes on the wrong side of the closet and mentioning.
That was a
I
Tommy
didn't
issue.
figure out
Tommy
what
was the, you know, that OCD and having things a certain way in his space and his own, you know, the ownership stuff, you know. This is my house, this is my things, this is, so that wasn't Ryan's, you know, big issue necessarily.
Right.
That was a Tommy issue.
It turned into a power struggle for sure, but Tommy's lagging skills and what's going on with him are then triggering Ryan's lagging skills, and so it was just like this cycle. It really was a difficult fit having those two kids sharing a room.
Because even till today, that's still true.
Well, and now
because-
the brother is in that exact same room doing the exact same thing with Matt.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's like,
But Tommy and Ryan really can't be together for too long because Ryan, or Tommy triggers Ryan.
yeah.
So they can't be at the same Boys and Girls Club because Tommy will trigger Ryan.
It's,
What it did help, because I know, like, when I worked with Brian and watching him even be able to, so towards the end, yes, he was placating Mark, yes, no,
Yep,
no,
yep.
fine. But like when he started like, you know, talking like that weird way, like about like the punching bag and stuff, like that's like him learning how to verbalize his
Right,
feelings.
yeah.
And like it's a really important step. you
and
know?
we actually ended up, through this, he was like, for lack of, again with the animal analogies, for lack of a better word, he was my guinea pig as I was learning this process. I practiced with him so much. I actually had better Plan Bs with him that never made it onto film. From even before this, he was my like experiment where I was like, I wonder if I can get to the bottom of why he won't go to bed at night. And I did, you know, this was even before he lived with you guys. But at some point we were actually able to identify this enough where we added goals to his service plan about will help him learn how to identify his feelings in words and explain himself. Like we were able to identify he's making progress with that. Let's continue working on that. So that's an example of how in that, it's not here but it normally is here.
Yeah, sorry.
The intervention goes back into the assessment. You know, it's like a cycle that goes on and on. What we learned from our Plan B attempts is more stuff about lagging skills and patterns. So that helps us in the end. terms of fidelity, and I think my video shows a lot of problems that will help us see some of these things, you can do steps that are missing or out of order.
I want to say something about that quick, because
Yeah.
like it's okay to like do step 1 and step 2 and not get to step 3. I mean, it doesn't mean you
Yeah.
completed a plan B, but you can revisit that. But don't like, you know, don't start with like the brainstorming first
Right.
and then offer empathy and reassurance while you're brainstorming.
It's also okay to do step 1 and try to go to step 2, but then you end up going back to step 1. I did that a lot in this video because he kept bringing up, when I would try to summarize his concerns, he would then bring up something else, you know?
It's
like-
always okay to go back to step 1. That doesn't mean you're doing it out of order. It means you're just kind of like, okay, I have this much information, now I'm going to start over again and see if I can get a little bit further this time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was part of me wondering, was I drilling down far enough, which is another thing here, or was I over drilling? Like, I don't know. It's hard to know when to stop and be like, I'm just gonna go with what he told me. But I want him to be engaged and invested. It's hard with a kid who can't pay attention.
There was a good point when he talked about the closet where he seemed to identify his concern, but it was vague.
I
you know?
had him. I was trying to.
Yeah, it was. We were close, and so but then like then he's like, oh, bracelet, and like Margaret had to back up
This is
again.
the kind of kid, you know, I keep saying it, but he would do good in 10-minute increments of a
Right.
plan B. He couldn't handle, neither of us could handle the 2-hour plan B. It was too much. Also,
So could you
drive
have
by
broken it down and just worked that, instead of working at the whole thing, and just, okay, now let's just talk about maybe you expressing and using words instead of arguing or throwing or fighting or whatever.
In the example that we didn't watch, we have a couple videos that don't work. They only have audio, and it's a school principal talking to a kid about having tantrums when the mom drops him off. And the first part of the video is done after school one day, where she does step 1 and step 2, and then they agree to come back to it the next day and do step 3. So that's the second video. It's that. So yeah, breaking it up and like maybe. You may come out of a plan B with more plan Bs to do.
Yeah.
We've got the language thing over here. We've got this guilt about Mother's Day that we could drill down on. We have this thing about being afraid he's going to get moved. Those are all new clues that we need to investigate. It's like exponential.
But you don't need to do it all at that moment. Does
No.
that make sense? Like, because that's gonna be too much.
Much too much.
You kind of want to still remain like not tunnel vision, but like listen to that and be like, okay, I'm gonna put this on the table for later. But like, what does this explain about what this certain situation now?
The other thing I didn't want to skip is drive-by empathy. I did have an agenda. I had somewhere to be. I wanted to get this video done and sent in. I had my agenda looming above us. So I do have so much empathy for this child all the time. I really do. But it was kind of shadowed by my pressure. There was a little bit of pressure there. So I don't know that I was being as patient.
In the videos, I would say that Margaret is very empathetic with Ryan,
Yeah.
but like with the videos, it's different because you need to like get things done a certain way.
It's hard to stay patient, and if you can't be, you should probably stop and come back to it.
And which they did.
Yeah. Also, grilling or over drilling, like back off when it's time to back off. You know.
The not drilling down far enough too, like this reminds me, like so when a kid, you know how we talked about dead end explanations and how like, you know, saying that a kid is like defiant or like, you know, using that type of language to describe a kid doesn't really get us specific enough. If the kid is telling you that about themselves as well, like if they're like, well, I just am always defiant. What does that exactly mean? You want to go down a little bit further. That's not the
I'm
answer.
lazy. What does that mean? Tell me about lazy. I know what I think that means,
Right.
but does that mean you don't want to get out of leave your room, or you just
We never have the same idea of what things mean.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Not
Yeah.
something I've learned over and over again.
exactly? Okay, so having solutions instead of concerns on the table, you could, you know, sit down to talk with a kid and know exactly what needs to happen, and that's fine, but save it till the end and let the kid come up with a solution first. You don't want to start here. You want to start with what you're worried about, not what you think should happen. You don't want to present to the kid, I have this concern, and here's what I think should happen. You just want to present, I have this concern. You know, here, let's figure out your concern about this. Also, we don't want to have kind of chronic emergency view where we're just putting out fires all the time. We want to stop the fires from starting in the first place by having these proactive conversations in calm moments. I'm not going to the home every morning, other people did, to stop the fighting while it was happening. I mean, we had the therapist, I think, wasn't for a while, she was coming in the mornings and put out these fires. We want to have proactive talks about it and try to work on it during the calm moments, but it's hard with those two kids because they get upset when you start talking about it. Also, you want to make sure you are focusing on a problem instead of on what skill is missing. You want to talk about, this is a shared problem. And yes, the kid may have a lagging skill that's causing the problem to happen, but you want to focus here rather than on what's broken with the child. You don't want to be focusing and pointing out to the kid, well, since this thing is broken about you, what are we going to do?
And because by doing the collaborative problem solving and solving the problem together, you're going to build in the skills.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't just say like,
Since you can't pay attention,
what are we going to do about that?
what are we going to do about your anger?
And this one, so you're trying to solve, this one is good. You're trying to solve the symptom and not the underlying cause. So Shannon asking about, a kid who, binges and purges. Yes, we want them to stop binging and purging. We also really care about what's causing that behavior. And it may be so messy and tangled that we're not going to figure, every single thing out. But maybe we can at least find about like, what does it feel like when you need to do that sort of thing? And she might not be able to identify it for months and months and months. We can start to work that groundwork. Does that make sense?
So what, yeah, and we didn't get into that yet because she did hint that it was very, very complicated.
I think that, as someone who has like had my own mental health
Right.
stuff, is sometimes really you don't even know what's going on in your own
And
head.
she does
That's a
it.
huge
Yeah.
problem. That's a good example of one of those big things that might be too much.
And
for-
she didn't want to go there. She made that very clear.
So don't.
But you did a good job. Like you listened, you took her lead. She's like, I'll just stop, okay. And then she came back to you later. Well, what if we buy some more healthy food? Perfect. You know what I mean? And like eventually, like with doing more Plan Bs, you will get to the cause. You
That's
will
the
get
pea
to
in the
it.
bucket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're gonna baby step
Because we
into
have
it.
to eat.
Yeah. We all have to eat,
Yeah. It's
So,
the,
yeah.
it's the changing the expectations temporarily to baby step until they can handle bigger.
conversations about.
And she doesn't want to talk about it with other people in the house. And so the attention will be, well, why aren't you eating? Why is it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
You'll get there.
So we'll probably save these for next week. There's several videos about the troubleshooting. We'll talk more about troubleshooting next week. I also want to make time next week to have you guys practice the drilling down and what that all feels like.
So if you could think of examples like from, like pretend to be one of your kids that's having a problem, and that, like something that you may already know what the, what
Or
the
like
actual
we
problem
can
is.
be Luke and you can all practice
with
drilling
us.
down on us.
We'll figure it out, or you
we'll
can
figure it out.
tell me. Vera.
Yeah, I'll be riding. Or I'll
So
let you
we'll
be
practice
riding.
it. I really encourage you guys to practice at home. Like I said, if you are viewing kids through the lens of kids will do well they can, you're not gonna hurt kids. This isn't gonna hurt kids.
You already have kids in your care, you're already having to intervene about unmet expectations. All I'm asking is try to do some reflective listening, try to do some educated guessing, try to add some reassurance. Just try to pepper these steps into your interactions. If it feels hard, come back to class and tell us why it feels hard and we'll work on that. We've only got 2 weeks left after this, so we've got to get you ready to,
Yeah, and
we want to get you confident.
It's okay to mess up. It's okay to have like someone say it's okay to like do the steps out of order. And you can sometimes you'll be able to see it on yourself, and sometimes you won't. Like Margaret helps me all the time where I've been wrong, and like sometimes I'll be like Margaret, like look at this area here. It's okay, it's just like a process and part of what we're trying to uphold